This is so utterly humiliating for Pam Bondi. The Attorney General had a public meltdown over the resignations of the 6 top prosecutors in Minnesota. Many of those prosecutors were also involved in the fraud investigations that former President Biden initiated in order to root out fraud in Minnesota. And there's fraud in lots of states as well, but these were the main prosecutors dealing with that. And the Trump regime and Pam Bondi wanted them to criminally investigate the widow of Renee Nicole Good, to go after the widow and to not investigate the officer or the rogue ICE agent Jonathan Ross, who killed Renee Nicole Good. At the same time, there were 6 resignations in Minnesota of the top federal prosecutors there. You had at least 4 or 5 major resignations from the Civil Rights Division in Main Justice in Washington, D.C., because they were ordered by Pam Bondi not to investigate the killer of Renee Nicole Good, but again, to go after the widow of Renee Nicole Good. Horrific. Now, the total of resignations at the DOJ is now around 3,000. When we reported last month, that number was 2,900 attorneys. Brad Heath was the one who reported that story. More than 2,900 attorneys quit the Justice Department or were fired during the first 10 months of this year, about triple the number who depart in a typical year. That was just through 10 months. And now, extrapolating further, that number seems to be closer to 3,000, maybe even more. But the key federal prosecutors in Minnesota now, Pam Bondi having this complete and utter public meltdown. She, of course, went on Hannity to start crying. Of course, she goes to state regime media where she cries and whines and says, "Can you believe that these prosecutors were interviewing at liberal law firms?" And I told them, they said I quit. And I said, "You don't quit. You're fired and you don't get your benefits. If you don't want to investigate the widow of Renee Nicole Good, I fire." They quit, Pam Bondi. They said, "Bye-bye. We don't want to be a part of your piece of trash, DOJ, your utter embarrassment, your child sex trafficking cover-up ring." Pam Bondi, you've turned the DOJ into a racketeering enterprise for the purpose of covering up child sex trafficking. You should be disgusted with yourself, Pam Bondi, but there you are on Hannity. Are you crying, Pam Bondi? Let me show everybody what went down here when Pam Bondi had a breakdown. Was she crying on public TV? While live here, play this clip.
What happened in Minnesota? We had 6 prosecutors who suddenly decided they didn't want to support the men and women in ICE. One of them was busy doing a photo shoot with the New York Times while ICE was out there risking their lives. So they came, they said, "We want to resign, but we want to use our annual leave up until April," meaning they wanted the taxpayers to pay for them to go on vacation because they decided they didn't want to support law enforcement. So the breaking news tonight, I fired them all. They're fired from the office. And our U.S. attorney there, Rosen, he's great. He was just confirmed 3 months ago. So he has his hands full. And that's what we're facing around the country, the deep state in many of these offices.